It's time for the second race of the Euroformula Open Championship, the first of our reverse grid races throughout the season. We're at the Autodromo Internacional Algarve. 15 turns and 4.653 kilometers in length for these young hopefuls to be racing around. It'll be Divi Nandan who starts from the front of the field. But yesterday was all about Rui Heng Ye from Team Motorpark after securing his first pole position and then his first victory in what was, in no other way to describe it, a dominant performance from the Chinese Taipei driver. Chris Stevens and George Morgan up here in the commentary box for the next 18 laps of racing, or 30 minutes, whichever we hit first. And George, yesterday, Rui Heng Ye, ran out of superlatives for the lad.
Yeah, phenomenal performance. In the end, approximately 7 seconds, he coursed away in front of the field, dominating and certainly never fading and ever so quick. A massive return for Rui Heng Ye to the Euroformula Open after only appearing in the final 2 rounds of last season, where his best result was 4th in race 2 at Monza. But the 17-year-old from Taipei certainly showing that he is a cut above the rest, a definite championship contender. Of course, different prospect today, because as opposed to starting on actual pole position like he did in yesterday's race, he will have to try and do this from P6, because of course this is the first of the reverse grid races that we will of course see, and he will be starting P6 for the next race as well at the same time, so he better get used to it here right now. Divi Nandan will be starting on pole, the Indian driver, as we said yesterday, only the 4th Indian to appear in the Euroformula Open Championship. He'll be alongside Alessandro Famolaro, who'll be looking for big results for BVM, and Jesse Carrasquedo, who I have to tell you, after witnessing him charge back through the field after a difficult start to the actual race, this will be the first litmus test to see what he can do when he starts in regulation with all the other cars.
Jesse Carrasquedo, definitely one to watch out for, starting on the second row of the grid. We did have some difficult getaways for some of the newcomers, as is a sort of typical fashion with these cars. Unfortunately, we do see the newer drivers do struggle with it. See Alessandro Famolaro pulling up into his grid position. He's got 2 front row starts today, second after finishing 5th in race 1, and then the second reverse grid race, which is taken from the qualifying results. Famolaro will be starting on pole position for that one.
Yeah, of course, Motorpark have enjoyed so much success in recent times. 7-time team champions, of course, if you include the 2 that were won by Crypto Tower as well, and looking to regather the Drivers' Championship crown, because of course it was Timek Garchik who won the first title for BVM last season, and now obviously with 2 drivers representing on the front end of the grid, it gives the Italian outfit a great chance to respond to the blanket podium that Motorpark laid down yesterday. And of course Divi Nandan stepping into European competition for the first time properly, of course appearing in GB3 Championship, but of course in the Euroformula you get a wider spectrum of European circuits to enjoy. And behind the wheel of the Dallara 324, he'll be hoping that it'll be his name that can carry it through from lights to flag, like Enzo Ye pulled off yesterday. There is Alessandro Famolaro, the Venezuelan, coming back in this season. The 22-year-old competed in the last 3 rounds of last season, a little bit extra than Enzo Ye. And he also best finisher 4th in race 3 at Barcelona. Of course, also competed in FRECA and also FIA Formula 3. There's Jesse Carrasquedo. Many of us believing that this man could yet taste P1 success here in race trim this weekend. Was fastest across the board in free practice. It was a 1:35.7 in FP1, a 1:36.5 in FP2. Diego de la Torre, the Mexican as well, another one to watch, who comes in with a boatload of experience of last season, and he was fastest in pre-season testing.
And was very quick yesterday as well. His his second podium finish in the Euroformula Open Championship after a little tussle with this man, Everett Stack, who we believed would be something of a favourite going into this season as one of the 2 drivers with a full season under his belt going into 2026. There's the man who dominated proceedings yesterday, Rui Heng Ye, in the 21 car. And then at the rear of the field, it's all 5 of our rookie class drivers. So these are drivers who've come from lower performance machinery and under the age of 18 for this season. So Victor Dobransky, who took the rookie win yesterday, and Javier Herrera, who was one of the drivers, I think, who struggled to get off the line. See where he fits into things. And then Lorenzo Castillo, another of the Mexican contingent, Valencia based at the moment, joins us from the Euro Cup Championship. Then Aaron Ferrazano for the new Neri Autosport team. Good to see Jesus Pereira shaking the hands of the various teams who are contesting today. So young Aaron. And then at the back of the grid is Jan Koller after his contact yesterday with Victor Dobransky, coming into turn number 8, which broke the front wing of the Czech driver's car. Being supported by Roman Stanek this season, and has been for a few years now, since he was with previously BVM Racing in Italian F4. So let's see if Jan Koller can make some progress. Let's look back at what happened yesterday, though. It was Rui Hengye who started on pole position. Difficult start for a few drivers, having to take avoiding action as well, but thankfully no one was collected in all of that. It was Rui Hengye who took the whole shot into the first corner, while Diego Della Torre and Everett Stack banged wheels, battling for second place through the first few corners. Great stuff from Jan Koller in the opening stages of the race to go right around the outside of Alessandro Famularo. Aaron Ferrazano benefited from the calamities of others. But that did mean he came under pressure later in the race. Jesse Carrasquillo making his charge up through the field. And then this contact, Victor Dobransky running into the back of a spinning Jan Koller. Everett Stack made his move on Diego Della Torre to take second place away from the Mexican. But Rui Hengye was untroubled at the front of the field. His first time on a Euroformula Open podium, and it was on the top step for the Taiwanese driver. So race 2 about to get underway. The first reverse grid race of the season. And the umbrellas are very much in need today. The sun beating down on this beautiful Algarve circuit, and very little shade to find out there as well, which is normally provided by the grandstand and probably will be later in the day. It's just coming up to 20 past 10 local time, so the sun already starting to work its way onto the circuit. This is how they line up. It's Divi Nandan who starts on pole position in the 55 BVM racing car, and then it's Alessandro Famularo who starts alongside him. So 2 BVM cars at the front of the field, and then Jesse Carrasquillo. What could have been yesterday, we're about to find out. Ahead of Diego Della Torre, picked up his second podium finish yesterday. Then our top 2 from race 1. Everett Stack, the Virginian, and yesterday's race winner, Rui Hengye. Fourth row of the grid will be yesterday's rookie class winner, Victor Dobransky, and then Javier Herrera in the 3rd of the BVM racing cars, starting in 8th position. Then will come Lorenzo Castillo in 9th, Aaron Ferrazano in the Neri Autosport car in 10th, and Jan Koller, after yesterday's contact and front wing change, will be at the back of the grid. Grid now being cleared, and so the umbrellas being put away, and the last few team members making their way back to the garages, and we'll have the formation lap underway. Big moment here for Divi Nandan, starting at the front of the grid, former GB3 racer. So has competed at this level of competition, but probably learning the circuit, I would imagine, and learning this specific car as well.
Yeah, a little bit of a different situation for him this season, and most notably getting wider European circuit experience as well. We're now riding on board with his teammate Alessandro Famularo on the right-hand side. Of course, the Venezuelan, no stranger to these circuits, having raced here in the past. Well, not necessarily in this series, because of course he arrived late on in the championship, had Enzo Fittipaldi in his corner with him, as well as a coach and a good friend of his as well at the same time. Obviously a lot of prospect for him in looking to build from that initial platform of racing in the championship last season. Other ones to watch, obviously Carrasquillo is the definite hallmark, I would say, for this particular race, certainly owing to what we saw towards the tail end of yesterday's race, really moving his way through the field and showed a lot of aggression, a lot of confidence in the corners as well. One can only imagine what he could do here with a you know, a better platform and opportunity with a better race start, it would really give him a definite opportunity and a potential race win here this afternoon. But of course, it's going to be another matter altogether in trying to get past the likes of Alessandro Famolaro and Divi Nandan, who are really going to be looking to try and defend the places for BVM team, the Italian outfit, looking to reclaim the Drivers' Championship and go back-to-back if they can. Obviously, Everett Stack could be another one to watch too. Obviously starting from 5th place behind Diego Della Torre. Both of those drivers having solid runs last season from start to finish of the campaign. So we'll look to see how they respond, of course, starting from those positions. And then, of course, our race winner from yesterday, Rui Hengye. It will ultimately depend on how well Rui Hengye does start this race and see whether he can gain a few places on the run down through towards turn 1. Remember, there's quite a lot of variables in that first sector. Remember, turn 4 over the crest. Before that, you've got the heavy braking zone that sends you uphill, and not forgetting the almighty Tora Vip section. This circuit, dazzling, a roller coaster ride. 15 turns, 4.653 kilometers, 2.891 miles, and will, of course, be once again hosting the Portuguese Grand Prix in 2027 and 2028.
So cars start to back up the pace and make their way towards the starting grid itself. And Divi Nandan's not wasting much time, actually. He might be a little bit early on the scene. So watch out for Jesse Carrasquillo. That is the car with the black tips, but the yellow markings on his halo to distinguish him from Rui Hengye. Diego Della Torre's got the green front wing tips, T-cam and the mirrors. Everett Stack a little bit easier to spot with their full blue livery. And then Victor Dobransky, the blue wingtips, mirrors and T-cam on his car. And then the yellow of Javier Herrera. So we'll keep an eye out on those distinguishing features. And Divi Nandan's pointed over to the right-hand side. I think he's expecting a challenge from his teammate going into the first corner, but he is aiming towards the dirtier side of the grid. There has been a decent amount of racing, so that it shouldn't be so much difference between the two sides of the grid, but the last cars into place on the grid. The green flag is waved at the back and the start light sequence begins. The engine notes rise. And we're racing in Portimao. Lovely start from Divi Nandan, but it was Jesse Carrasquillo who did not get away once again. So another difficult start from the Mexican driver, and he's going to have to go from the rear of the field now and try and recover those places once again. But it's Divi Nandan who leads the way. Alessandro Famolaro in second. It's Diego Della Torre who's moved up to third position. The lead motorpark car behind the two PVM run machines. Still a little bit of side-by-side as Lorenzo Castillo tries to go around the outside at turn 4 and ends up having to take to the runoff area. Then that was fighting with Aaron Ferrazzano, as we have Herrera going around the outside of Tora Vip as well, and he ends up finding some of the escape. Jan Koller with a good view as they go 3 abreast towards turn number 7. Someone's going to have to end up yielding there. Ferrazzano sticks it out on the inside and just about manages to keep Carrasquillo at bay, who's already starting his recovery. Yeah,
aggressive little look there from Diego Della Torre into Tora Vip, ultimately just firing that warning shot against Alessandro Famolaro, but a brilliant effort from BVM's account, holding those front 2 places. I can tell you the start is under review at the moment as well, so we'll give you an update from the stewards when we hear word from race control. But elsewhere, a really positive start from Rui Hengye, up 2 places from where he began. Remember, P6 as a result of the reverse grid, now finds himself in P4 and hunting down after the Mexican Diego Della Torre, of course part of the Motor Park lineup. Also, they head down the Garp corner to begin lap 2. Of course, the end of the first lap now, and this is where we'll see where the pace will unfold. Better start, though, all round from drivers. Obviously, better than the 4 stoppages that we had at the get-go. Famolaro under pressure, though, once again. Diego Della Torre just having a look to the inside. Divi Nandan starting to creep away, though. The gap folding or flying out to 1.1 seconds at the moment for the 55. So doing a great job up there. And just look at this from Enzo, yeah, getting really nicely tucked behind Diego Della Torre as they now cruise through turn 4 over the crest. Everett Stack also creeping in. Reminder, start is under investigation. We will keep bringing you updates, folks, when that does come along. But into Tora Vip, currently no surprises up at the front end. They're all in firm control, but very close together. It will only take one mistake for positions to change.
Diego de la Torre there in third position. Does have Rui Hengyang for pretty close company. He's made up 2 places, has yesterday's race winner. Moved up ahead of Everett Stack. Victor Dobransky still leading the rookie contingent ahead of Jan Koller, who has made up 4 places from his grid position. A lovely start from the Czech driver, as he did have yesterday as well. It's Nandan pulling away 0.8 of a second, the gap, as they went through the second timing split on this lap. So Famolaro trying to keep De La Torre and Rui Hengyang and Everett Stack at bay. That seems to be the chasing pack for second place, although not much gap to Dobransky behind. Let's see how the gap has progressed. So we see Aaron Ferrazzano and Jesse Carrasquillo. So Carrasquillo on the recovery, he's up to 10th position. So he's past Javier Herrera. This should now be 9th position for the driver of the number 27. It is. So, oh no, even further than that, excuse me. 8th position now for Carrasquillo. Once again, he's having to do things the difficult way. Shades of Timothy Kahacek last year. In fact, he had 2 very difficult starts as well when he started for BVM Racing, and actually it's the BVM cars that are leading the way at the moment, with Divi Nandan, the 23-year-old from Haryana in India, and is being engineered by Matteo Tirinanzi, who took Timothy Kahacek to the championship last year in the blue and yellow number 55 machine.
I can tell you that car 55 is actually under investigation for the start procedure, so that was the issue that was obviously being deliberated in the stewards' room. So
well, it was a very good start.
Yeah, it was.
Was it too early, I wonder?
Could be too early, maybe positioning inside the grid box, who knows? Maybe some part of the car was outside of where it should have been.
Oh yeah, because it was pointed quite far to the right, wasn't he? So maybe he was deemed to be outside of his grid box. So we'll keep an eye out on that one. So our race leader is under investigation, though. So it'll be very welcome news for Alessandro Famolaro. Not, of course, from a team point of view, but just from a
rival,
a selfish point of view, as you know,
but they're all
racing drivers will be when they're on the track.
Well, you're battling for a drivers' championship ultimately, so you do have to focus on the job at hand. Credit as well to S.A. Carrasquillo, rumbling in the purple sectors inside the first 2. Incidentally, now the fastest lap of the race at the same time. He is hot on the heels at the moment of Czechia driver Jan Koller. As he now cruise over the crest, there's Everett Stack in the blue, just in behind him. Victor Dobransky in the lead as far as the Rookies Trophy is concerned. So Koller with slightly different priorities at this stage because, of course, like I said, Carrasquillo hot on his heels, showing that he's got electric pace. We compare the 2 drivers over the last lap, it was approximately 8/10. Let's have a look at this. I think he's out of the box.
Oh, he's jumped the start.
Oh, he has, no.
He was rolling. He was rolling when the lights were still on. So I'm afraid that is a slam dunk for our race leader. So we expect a penalty to come through for race leader Divi Nandan, which, and yes, only a 5-second time penalty though, so it's not a race-destroying penalty.
Well, I mean, they are quite closely tied together, aren't they, at the moment?
Well, yeah, let me put it this way. At the moment, that would drop him to 8th position.
Yeah, so there will be some significant points lost. There's now a very bold move up the inside here from S.A. Carrasquillo, toppling Czechia driver Jan Koller. That was spectacular, moving himself up into 7th place.
Well, if we still gave a bonus point for overtakes, Carrasquillo would be definitely taking it home.
Oh,
but,
yes.
Maybe
you didn't read the new rules suggesting that there is no extra bonus points for overtaking. But nevertheless, we love the show. Thank you very much, S.A. Carrasquillo, as we now watch them head down towards turn 1. So confirmation, you can see on the left-hand side of your the graphic on your screen, folks at home, you can see the exclamation mark sign against Divi Nandan. That does, of course, allude to that penalty that he has now received of 5 seconds. Great news for Famolaro, who's now effectively net race leader of this race. There is Giuseppe Mazzotti behind the scenes, obviously having a conversation, no doubt, I would imagine, difficult conversation in context of the race start that they've just witnessed.
Mattia, normally quite a reserved chap, but was a little bit animated.
Does look a little bit more animated.
From Mattia, so...
usually he has a big smile on his face as well.
Normally does, yes. That was Yeah, look inside the BVM garage, I'm sure discussing that penalty for Divi Nandan, who does still have the on-the-road lead by about 3/4 of a second. That gap's been very, very steady. That was a lot of tyre squeal, though, from one of the leading cars. I imagine a bit of a moment potentially for Famularo or for Divi Nandan. Did lose a little bit of time to his teammates. You see Diego de la Torre still trying to cling on to the back of the Venezuelan. De la Torre, another one of these drivers we've been talking about who does look like a different driver this year, showing a lot more confidence and a lot more speed after a rookie campaign that's only yielded one podium finish for him. Well, he's checked that one off the box already with a third-place finish yesterday, and if things stay as they are, he'll do the same again today.
You spent a lot of last season being the best of the rest, really, in terms of fourth-place finishes,
Yeah,
fifth-place finishes.
Did we count how many he had in?
Oh, he had quite a lot. If you look back at the race stats, I haven't quite counted them myself, but there was definitely a lot there that he managed to accrue. But those aren't necessarily the ones you want. I mean, obviously, being inside the top three is necessary. At the end of the day, they all want to win races. They want podiums. And at the end of the day, when that race win does come for De La Torre, I'm sure it'll be a fantastic moment. Could be a coming-of-age moment as well for the young Mexican driver who now heads uphill in a bid to try and tackle Alessandro Famularo and end the run of BVM racing cars inside the top two. Though, of course, remember, Nandan with that penalty will drop below De La Torre as we speak. De La Torre, the 1.3 of the race leader, still half a second away from Famularo. Rui Hengye also in the mix of the action, hasn't quite pounced on De La Torre just yet, just hasn't quite got himself into a position to strike. Everett Stack, of course, just in behind, has managed to gap Dobransky by some margin. 2.1 seconds now between those two. So Jesse Carrasquedo promptly licking his lips, I'd imagine, in a bit of moving into that sixth place, because he won't want to be held up for too long behind Victor Dobransky. He has bigger ambitions on his mind, I'm sure.
Full throttle through the final corner at Galp for Alessandro Famularo, despite the dirty, turbulent air coming off of his teammate's car. Fantastic drone shots, really showing the elevation of that final corner, which just plummets down the hill. And then you have another big drop here into turn one. They call this the roller coaster circuit for a reason. And we do so enjoy coming here. The weather is almost always agreeable and a top-class facility as well, with plenty of useful amenities for the likes of us. Down into Toravit, a bit of side-by-side between teammates there. That was Jesse Carrasquedo making the move on the rookie class leader, Victor Dobransky. That was for 6th position. Now Carrasquedo's got a bit of a bridge to gap there. 2 seconds to Everett Stack at the back of this leading train of cars. But for someone who was, stationary when the race got underway and plumb last at turn one, to only be 4 seconds off the race lead, I think he's doing a great job out there. But once again, we're just sitting here going, what could have been?
Well, this is it. But one thing I will say is that the start of this particular race wasn't necessarily as bad as it was, in comparison to yesterday. So if he was able to do what he did yesterday and apply it again today with, should we say, less of a negative mitigation, even though it's still a negative part of the race, to the fact that he had lost quite a crucial amount of time, not to mention places, he could still do something in this race. Just needs to connect himself back to the rear of Everett Stack. But you can just see, look how tight they are all bunched together. The top 5 all within 1 second of one another. In fact, very nearly within half a second of one another at the moment. Stack within half a second of Enzo Yer. And then further up, Yer 7/10 away from De La Torre. Of course, Nandan still holding his own at the front. But remember, Dan, should he even close up a little bit more? It's currently 2.2 between Carrasquedo and Stack as we now see it. Famularo just looking to control the pace and in a bit of taking a first race win in the Euroformula Open Championship, which would be a grand occasion on his account.
Formerly coached by Juan Pablo Montoya, he and his twin brother Anthony, in fact, when they were in Italian F4 together, they were teammates back in 2018. Not sure if Anthony is still racing, in fact, but for sure Alessandro is continuing to pursue the dream. The 23-year-old Venezuelan. So he has now brought the gap down to half a second. Was 0.2 quicker than our race leader on that previous lap. But of course, I'm sure he'll have been told that Divi's got a penalty, so just stay within 5 seconds of him and you'll end up taking the victory. Now, that may well change if he comes under increasing pressure from Diego Della Torre, but at the moment, there's no reason to do anything particularly rash.
Well, one thing that could be rash for these drivers is that Jesse Carrasquedo is putting the work in, purple in the middle sector over the last lap, so he's starting to cruise up. He was actually a 1/10.5 quicker than Everett Stack in front of him. Keep on laying this down. Obviously, more work needs to be done, but it's a sign that there is more in Jesse Carrasquedo at this point in the race.
Yeah, the problem he's got is the 2-second gap to Everett Stack, and if that's what the pace is, that's not going to be enough to close that gap. He needs
purple right through the lap.
Well, more than that even. The pace is so even between these guys, so even if it is purple, it ends up not being quite enough. So what he needs is for these guys to start squabbling.
Within 2 seconds now, and has managed to bring it to within the 2.
Yeah,
so
0.2 in the first sector, that's a good start. So obviously he's listening in. This is an interesting dynamic we have here with the 2 BVM cars that are leading and the 3 Motorpark cars that are chasing. And I would say that Rui Hengye and Everett Stack are starting to just show a little bit more pace of wanting to get around Diego Della Torre.
4/10 found by Carrasquedo on Stack in the middle sector, so yet more time, and it's now all of a sudden sank to 1.4. So this could become a complication for Stack. I mean, in one lap alone, he could find himself a second quicker than the man in 5th place if he was to find even more time in the final sector. So Stack might yet have a problem on his hands very shortly, and along with that, so will the rest of the top 5, with Carrasquedo hot on their heels.
I take back everything I said about 60 seconds ago then, George. Half race distance,
9 laps. Can change.
9 laps to go. Divi Nandan still leads, but does have the 5-second time penalty for jumping the start. At the moment, that would drop him down to 6th position. 3.7 seconds back to Jesse Carrasquedo, 5.5 seconds back to the car behind our rookie class leader, Victor Dobransky. So that's how things stand at the moment. But he is coming under increasing pressure from Alessandro Famolaro, who's maybe starting to show a little bit more impetus to take the on-track lead and not just take it because of your teammate's penalty. A little swapper through turn 3 and a second swapper for Divi Nandan. That would have been on the previous lap, so just sliding the car ever so slightly. I'm sure the tyres are being worked quite hard, particularly the left-hand side tyres, because there are so many right-handers in this track.
It's a shame for Divi Nandan that we don't have a reverse race for the result of race 2, to be honest, because if he does finish in P6, we'll see 5.5 seconds away is Dobransky against Nandan at the moment, then it does. Obviously, that would be the case that he would start pole position if that was a thing. But Carrasquedo, once again, putting the work in, and again, finding tenths upon tenths against Everett Stack. I will say over the last lap, he was 9 tenths, nearly a whole second quicker than Everett Stack. And now, looking to rain down yet more delta time once again. It was 2 tenths inside the first sector, and it was nearly a whole tenth inside the middle sector, and again, a whole tenth found in the final sector. Carrasquedo going to work, and he's inside of a second against Everett Stack now, because he's now 9 tenths off the tail of Stack and starting to push.
Yeah, so another 4 tenths on that previous lap. So yeah, Carrasquedo's about to arrive on the scene. Will he have any tyres left by the time he gets up to them? No, I'm sure that's going to be the crucial question. With that, Nandan just a little defensive, then retaking the racing line just to say, don't even think about it, sunshine.
Sending a message, a clear message to his teammate, Alessandro Famolaro. No friends in love and war.
Carrasquedo fastest in the first sector and took another 2 tenths out of Everett Stack just in the first sector. So the gap now less than 3/4 of a second.
That answers your question about the tyres as well. Clearly, they're still working very nicely.
Can he hear me?
Yeah.
It's astonishing.
They're obviously working well for SA Carrasquedo, the Pirelli rubber, here in the Euroformula Open Championship, as they have been supplying us now over the last couple of seasons. Obviously, Nandan in control, half a second still ahead of Famularo, but remember the penalty will force him out of the top 5. Carrasquedo getting ever closer to the back of Everett Stack once again. There's Dobransky, your current rookie race leader. He's going to be heading down through the Galp corner, 8 laps or so to go. And Carrasquedo surely, now that he's inside half a second, if he can get the leverage out of Galp corner through towards turn 1, he yet might be able to unlock the door of Everett Stack.
He does need to watch the track limits, though, because he's just been given a warning for that one. He can't afford to pick up a penalty like Lorenzo Castillo and Javier Herrera picked up yesterday for similar infringements. So Dobransky there in 7th position for car number 7 from Krakow, 19-year-old, but living in Spain, like many of the drivers on this grid, actually. Moving over from Spanish F4 last year. We go back on board with Jan Koller, who is chasing Dobransky for that rookie class lead. Only half a second separating them when they went over the timing line. The Prague-based 18-year-old. And has been keeping things neat and tidy. Had that spin yesterday and collected Victor Dobransky. And despite Dobransky having that contact and running through the gravel, did manage to come away with the rookie class win. Back with the leaders. It's closed up a lot between Dewey Nandan and Alessandro Famularo. And Famularo did have a little look on the inside there. And surely he's been told you don't need to pass your teammate. There could be some trouble ahead, although Nandan does have a few car lengths by the time they get through the Galp corner.
And this is where we will be asking major questions as to how the tyres are performing on each and every single one of these cars. If anything, though, Famularo not getting the best of exits coming out of Galp corner, and now Diego Della Torre hovering all over his rear as they now come down in towards turn 1 once again, just covering off the escape. SA Carrasquedo in the background, though, having a look on Everett Stack as well.
Off.
Yeah, Famularo going wide, so it's now a battle over P2 once again. Diego Della Torre with another look, but here comes Carrasquedo. Now around the outside of Everett Stack, unable to get the move done. Stack has to go defensive, but that's going to compromise the run on the run down to Torre Vip, where we know Carrasquedo loves to go late on the brakes. Stack has surely got to defend this one now. Carrasquedo forced to the outside. They're side by side again, but surely now a switchback heading uphill through towards Samsung could prove to be a side by side situation. Here comes now Carrasquedo to the outside of the American driver. Stack going full defensive. He's got to keep his shields up. Still around the outside comes Carrasquedo, unable to make it happen. Great work from Stack to mitigate the attack.
Look how much time they've lost because of just a few corners of side-by-side. Carrasquedo still not finished. He has a big look on the inside at the top of the hill in Portimao, and he does get the move done on Everett Stack eventually. So that's Carrasquedo up into 5th position now. Stack's not finished, though. So Carrasquedo has to go defensive into 13. That will compromise him potentially through the penultimate corner as well. No, he manages to bring it back across. And so hopefully with a decent enough run through the Galp corner, he won't feel too under pressure by the time they get back towards turn 1. And we'll keep an eye on the gap because they did lose a bit of time in that squabble.
It's about a second,
and so we will see what's the gap to Rui Hengyang when they get over the timing line. 1.3 seconds with 5 laps to go. But we've seen Carrasquedo make short work of larger gaps than that. So I would suggest that yesterday's race winner, Rui Hengyang, is not very safe in 4th position either. And maybe even, depending on how things turn out, Carrasquedo could be in for a shout of a podium.
Especially if the top 2 do battle,
yeah.
Or indeed the battle over P2 continues again, obviously with Della Torre trying to force the hand of Alessandro Famularo in 2nd. And so, yeah, Rui Hengyang currently operating down in 4th at the moment, and Carrasquedo will very soon be hovering all over the back of him should he rein in the same kind of delta that we're also used to seeing from Carrasquedo. I can tell you he was quicker by Rui Hengyang by approximately 1/10.5 inside this first sector alone. So Carrasquedo has still got more life left in those tyres, so do not count out the Mexican.
Because Famularo surviving his own little moment there as well, going off the circuit at turn 1, defending from Diego Della Torre. It's the first big run that Della Torre's had on the Venezuelan throughout the entire race. They still battle for rookie honours between Dobransky and Koller, the two teammates from Motor Park. Through the final corner, Koller doesn't look like he's got necessarily the run. Very impressed with Dobransky, as yes, all the rookie class guys are at the rear of the field, but look how condensed the field is. It's 10 seconds covering the top 10, 11 seconds covering the entire field. So there's really not a lot to pick between a field of, you know, drivers with incredibly varied amounts of experience. Some of them with only a year of racing under their belts in cars, some with a few. So, you know, we've got Javier Herrera, the youngest driver in the field at the rear, 16 years old. And then two of the more experienced drivers, you know, Divi Nandan, 23 years old, Alessandro Famolaro, 23 years old. But then you have, you know, Diego Della Torre, who's still in his teens as well. And Rui Hengye, who's only 17. So, yeah, there's a real mix out there. Jesse Carrasquillo putting the pressure on all of them as well. How's that gap developing? It has come down by 0.3 of a second. He pulled another 10th in the middle sector, so the gap back under 1 second to Rui Hengye. But he'll only have 3 laps left when they go across the stripe. So Carrasquillo just starting to run out of opportunities to bring himself further up the order.
Yeah, but he'll take every opportunity he can muster. He's starting to really kick on now ahead of Everett Stack. The gap between those two now very nearly extending over a second. There is the blue livery belonging to the American, who was, of course, part of that 3-wide situation at Monza at the tail end of last season that saw Tevek Kaharczyk become the champion and supplying the first title for BVM as far as the driver's title is concerned. They now fly through turn 1 once more. Very high speed this section as well, but then suddenly hitting that braking zone before then heading over the crest at turn 4. Diego Della Torre has not found the answer on Famolaro just yet. Famolaro, much improved performance and a very much improved display, building on last season's experience, and now looking with a full campaign against his name here with BVM. Surely there'll be more on the horizon for this young man. The first race win could yet be in prospect for the Venezuelan. Rui Hengye managing to successfully land his very first victory. And of course, by that token, his very first podium in the Euroformula Open Championship as well by extension, because remember, 4th place, his best result last season at race 2 in Monza. So they ascend uphill through towards the blind right-hander before heading down once again. This very roller coaster-like section, which then sees you hit yet another heavy braking zone at the top of the hill. Diego Della Torre now being pressurised by Rui Hengye once more, just in the wheel tracks and trying to close. There's Carrasquillo down in 5th as well. 2.2 now, away from Nandan. And
Carrasquillo is on his last warning for track limits in 5th position, so he has got to keep it, I was going to say between the white lines, but it's the curb, so he's got to keep it between the curbs for these last 2 laps, it will be. Warning also going out to Jan Koller in 8th position. But it's 2 laps to go. Divi Nandan continues to lead on the road, but would drop to 6th position with this 5-second time penalty. He has 4 a jump start. Oh no, that's Divi Nandan off the road.
Oh, there's Della Torre up the inside as well at turn 3. So gets the move done.
Did he whack the curb at turn 1 maybe, because he's suddenly plummeting? Off goes Rui Hengye trying to round up the former race leader as well. But it's now Alessandro Famolaro who holds the on-the-track lead.
And here comes Carrasquillo.
Carrasquillo going for the move on the inside, and suddenly it's all come undone for Divi Nandan. What happened down at turn 1 that suddenly caused him to fly off the racetrack?
Well, it's left now Carrasquillo with a much easier job, you'd fathom, as well, in rounding up a potential podium. But Famolaro now has the absolute lead on track. The only thing is now, though, the gap between Famolaro and Della Torre has launched outwards to nearly 1.2 seconds after the mix-up coming through turn 3. Obviously, that was when we saw Nandan re-enter the circuit after running extraordinarily wide on the run out of turn 2. And ultimately, it left a few drivers stranded. It does mean that Famolaro has a great chance of taking this. Let's take a look at this again. So this is him off the track coming out of turn 1. through turn 2, later turn 3. Obviously, Familaro with an easy ticket to the front of the order takes first place on the Indian driver. Very nearly contact made as well against Della Torre.
I wonder if we have the onboard from Familaro that would show us what happened there to Divi Nandan. As you see, that was Rui Hengye trying to get around the outside, ended up running off the circuit. Yeah, hopefully we've got that onboard footage, because I'd like to see it and see what caused Familaro to actually go off the circuit. But, well, as it stands, it's now final lap of the race, and Alessandro Familaro leads by 1.2 seconds to Diego Della Torre, the Venezuelan, now on course for his first victory in the Euroformula Open Championship, as he was before Nandan went off because of the time penalty. But now it's going to look a bit prettier, I think, on the Instagram.
It's in the strike first.
Exactly. But now the question is, so Diego Della Torre in second. Can Rui Hengye hang on to this podium spot from Jesse Carrasquillo?
Oh, not anymore.
No,
5 seconds of time penalties for Jesse Carrasquillo for abusing track limits. So
he was on his last warning, and he's ended up paying the price for that one.
Any hope of that podium has now been utterly dashed, and therefore he will not feature at all, even inside the top 4, dare I say. Obviously, given the way the complexion is at the moment, Stack obviously 4.1 away from Familaro.
Yeah, he dropped down to 9th position, I think, depending on how Nandan's penalty plays out as well. But no, well, that's a much happier BVM garage now. But it will be Alessandro Familaro for the first time in the Euroformula Open Championship. 3 rounds with BVM Racing last year, and now starting a full season campaign. Sat behind his teammate for most of the race, but had it all under control. The hand is out of the cockpit because Alessandro Familaro is a race winner in the Euroformula Open Championship. He takes the victory in race 2 in Portimao. Diego Della Torre makes it 2 podiums in 2 races so far this season, as does Rui Hengye, who comes up to 3rd position after his victory yesterday. 4th will be Everett Stack, and Victor Dobransky takes his 2nd rookie class win of the season. Jesse Carrasquillo drops down to 7th in the end as a result of that track limits time penalty, with Divi Nandan, our erstwhile on-the-road race leader, 9th in the end after his jump start penalty.
Of course, had that moment out wide, but congratulations, Alessandro Familaro. BVM get 1 in the win column for Giuseppe Mazzotti's team. Of course, expanding to 3 cars for this round at Portimao, and they have further ambitions to go further than that. The Italian outfit keen now to take the fight to Motor Park team after the success last season, and Alessandro Familaro on his return for a full campaign this season. After completing the last 3 rounds of the 2025 season, his best result, much like Rui Hengye, 4th in race 3 at Barcelona. Well, now he can celebrate a first time for the first time, a Euroformula Open race winner here in 2026.
Cracking stuff from Familaro, the Venezuelan, and a first win, I believe, for his race engineer as well, Gaston Sampieri, who used to race for the BVM squad in Formula 4. I think, yeah, that's a first win on his side of the garage. So, well done to them. As the cars make their way back towards pit lane into Parc Fermé, where I'm sure the celebrations will begin. And BVM opens up their account on 2026. And 2 different winners from 2 different teams in the first 2 races. Have seen in the past, a few years in a row, we had 3 different winners in this first meeting of the season. And of course, Familaro will be starting from the pole later on this afternoon as well, race 3. Let's go through the results. It's the first victory of the season and in the Euroformula Open Championship for Alessandro Familaro, the BVM racing driver, on top in the first reverse grid race of the season. Diego Della Torre and Rui Hengye join him on the podium, both of them making their 2nd appearance on the rostrum for this weekend. Everett Stack just misses out in 4th position. Then it's Victor Dobransky, our rookie class winner for the 2nd time this weekend, just beating out Jan Koller. Jesse Carrasquillo 4th on the road, but 7th after a 5-second time penalty for track limits infringements. Lorenzo Castillo, and then Divi Nandan, a 5-second time penalty for his jump start. Aaron Ferrazano and Javier Herrera complete the field.
The wheel getting season, so it's interesting how the complexion swings as we enter another new campaign. Diego Della Torre as well weighing in, and another podium for him as well, in touching distance of that first race win for him too.
It's a second podium of the weekend for Rui Hengye, third after his victory yesterday, continuing on his strong form. Diego Della Torre goes one better than he did yesterday with a second place finish. But the winner for the first time in the Euroformula Open Championship from BVM Racing is Alessandro Famularo, and he's with Alfredo.
Alessandro Famularo, winner of race 2 at the Algarve. It was a great race with a final surprise.
I am speechless. I mean, after so long without driving, I'm just super happy that I achieved the win the team deserves it. We've been working very hard, and this is for Venezuela, for my family, for the people that loves me. I'm speechless.
Yeah, and of course, with the career you have had and so many breaks, to be back here, to be on top of the podium, you must feel special.
I can't believe it. Honestly, until a year ago, I thought I was gonna retire. I was basically retired. Thanks to my sponsor, to my family, to my whole country that supports me. We're back here and we're gonna continue to go up.
Y unas palabritas en español.
Ahora sí. Bueno, nada, le quiero mandar un beso a mi familia, a mis patrocinantes, a Venezuela entera, que se merece otro piloto en Fórmula 1, y gracias por todo.
Well done.
Gracias.
Let's look back on a very eventful race 2. It was Divi Nandan who jumped the start. He would pick a 5-second time penalty up for that. It was Jesse Carrasquillo who went nowhere off the line, and he had to make his recovery from the very rear of the field. Divi Nandan would have the whole shot into the first corner ahead of his BVM Racing teammate Alessandro Famularo, with Diego Della Torre and Rui Hengye in close proximity. The cars went side by side through the first few corners, some having to take to the off-track in order to make it through safely. Carrasquillo started his recovery, first passing Jan Koller into turn 13, with the Mexican making his way up the grid. Victor Dobransky and Jan Koller nose to tail throughout the entire race, pretty much, as they battled for rookie class honours. And then this was the moment Carrasquillo bridged the gap to Everett Stack, joining the leading pack and making that move on the Virginian. Divi Nandan, our erstwhile race leader, making a mistake, seemingly going off the road and giving the lead to Alessandro Famularo, and losing places as well to Diego Della Torre and Rui Hengye and Jesse Carrasquillo as well. He would end up dropping further places due to that jump start penalty. Alessandro Famularo, after years away from the racetrack, returning to the top step of the podium, his first victory in the Euroformula Open Championship. And so to the podium now, and a very emotional Alessandro Famularo, and for good reason as well. A good couple of years away from the racetrack, owing to things like budget and I believe injury as well at one point. And you can just see what this means to him to be back on the top step of a podium.
Absolutely right. Well, he was very emotional, obviously talking about the fact that he may not have even ever raced again. And now to come back in this manner with a victory under your belt in a brand new season of the Euroformula Open, it's, like we said about Rui Hengye, a massive confidence boost. And he features again on the podium as well, does Rui Hengye.
I think it's his first victory since his sophomore Formula 4 season in the German Championship, actually.
Which is quite the stretch.
For quite a few years ago, before his hiatus from racing. And I think that's Gaston, his race engineer, who's joined them on the podium. And once again, Victor Dobransky joins them on the podium as the top rookie, with Diego Della Torre and Rui Hengye. So here's the Venezuelan national anthem. What a moment for Alessandro. You can, I can feel the pride from here. I know we are next to the podium. It doesn't have long to travel, but it's so wonderful to see. And stories like this, where you see drivers who think that their careers are over and they find a home here in the Euroformula Open Championship and they are renewed.
It is a championship that really does get the best out of the drivers. Obviously, we saw it with the likes of Oliver Goethe, who eventually found his feet, also eventually becoming a Red Bull Junior as well in time. And obviously with Timothée Kaharczyk coming back after the difficulties in GB3 the season before, then taking his Euroformula Open title, becoming a standout in Indy next as well alongside HMD Motorsport. It brings a new sense of vibrancy to all drivers on the grid.
So Victor Dobransky will pick up the rookie class trophy as well. The Dallara and Pirelli representatives handing out the trophies. They will come together for the official podium photo. Still, we have one race to go, and Famularo, after victory in race 2, will be starting from pole position for race 3 later on today. That is lights out at 4:20. We'll be live for that one shortly before that, but not before. The Venezuelan flag is adorned by Alessandro Famularo. Well done to Alfredo for digging that one out of the box. And a remarkable day for Alessandro Famularo. One more race to come. We'll see you then.